Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here at the Spartan Rocketry Club, and we are continuing the work on the Estes Mini Mean Machine. Most of the gluing is done, but there are a few stray things we need to do before we can wrap things up, at least with the construction phase, and get onto the finishing. The first thing that we need to do is we need to actually install the engine mount here, the motor mount. So the one potential complication with this is, remember, this part we had to cut here. The front end of this should be sized, just right to fit in the back without any particular incidents, and so it does. But the back might be a little bit more of a problem because it is no longer precisely the size. Now it looks like this is going to fit without a whole lot of trouble. But just to be sure, I'm going to sand a little bit where the cut is, because that's the spot that's going to be the least ring shaped. And just doing a little bit of sanding here is kind of like giving us a bit of an insurance policy. So again, you should definitely test fit all this. Again, the front, not a problem. The back, it's still a little stiff, but as long as I can get it, yeah, that's not a problem. All right, so attaching. The instructions don't really even give you details on where exactly you should be gluing. That's not really a problem. It doesn't truly matter so long as you're going to put two layers of glue in here. I'm going to squeeze out a decent amount of this from my bottle. I'm going to grab my dowel, and the green, this thing is going to be basically pushed in its entirety, right? So it shouldn't go more than like 1.5 inches into the body. So that's kind of that's the deeper part. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball approximately where I think the back end is going to rest. And I'm going to put a ring of glue inside the body. That looks pretty thorough. And then as for the rest of this, I'm just going to scrape some of this up, and I'm going to paint it just inside the end here. Yeah. And I didn't quite get enough, so I'm going to grab my glue bottle here, and I'm just going to add a thin amount the rest of the way around. Okay. The way that you put this in, like where the hook goes, it's not terribly important. Usually I end up doing it in line with the launch lug. Might as well, right? You don't have to do it that way. There's no real advantage. I just find it easier. Like, I don't want the hook here to be in line with one of the fins. So in it goes. And I'm going to carefully push until the white part of the tube is fully inside the body. It looks pretty well lined up with the launch lug line, but again, that's just cosmetic more than anything else. And yeah, so that takes care of installing the motor mount there. The other thing that we need to do with regards to construction, at least right now, strong bag, is I need to put the launch lugs on. So there's one. These are pre-cut, which is, I guess, saves me a little bit of trouble here. There's the other. I've already marked on the body tube where they go, which is, again, saving me a bit of trouble. I'm not going to take the time to do 2 layers of glue for this. It's not really worth it. One is back here at the 1-inch mark. And I want the line that I drew to go right through the middle of this thing. That is going to make a difference because these are separated by quite a distance, 7.5 inches. So if they are not both perfectly accurate, then it's not gonna, the launch lug or the launch shot rod isn't gonna go straight through, and you're not gonna be able to fly it. So do a good job. Take your time. These things are quite small, which makes it a little hard to deal with. By the way, the distance here, this being at exactly 8.5 inches isn't anywhere near as important as it being precisely on the line with the other one. So, oops. Well, how about that? Let's try that again. And this is another place, by the way, where if you wanted to, you could sand the tube a little bit and get rid of some of the shiny gloss material so that the bond would be a little bit easier to make. But it's not, this is not hard. It's not anywhere near as difficult as putting the fins on. So I'm not terribly worried about that. All right, I'm going to check for alignment here. I'm just going to look down the tube, and I should be able to see straight through the two launch lugs. They should appear to be right on a line with each other, and that looks pretty good. You could use a ruler to check as well, but I'm not really going to worry about that. All right, so construction is basically done. Now, there is one other thing that needs to be done, and the question is when. Now, the instructions would have us do this like right now, but it might make it a lot easier to paint the rocket to not do this whole phase right now. The tube here we have is only half of the rocket. Remember, there's a whole nother one that's going to go on top. The top and the nose cone are going to be painted blue according to the directions, and the whole bottom section here is going to be painted white. So I certainly could put this whole thing together now and just tape it off and paper it later, but I don't think I'm going to do that. It'll be slightly easier to just paint this whole tube and the nose cone blue and this whole thing white and then attach the thing permanently after the fact. But what I am going to do at least is this is the like, I don't know what the instructions call it. What do they call it? The center. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. It's a connecting piece, and what we're going to do is we're going to mark halfway through it, so that way we know how far into each of the tubes it ought to go. So this is 3/4 of an inch. So 3/8 of an inch is the halfway mark. So I'm going to put a line there. This then eventually, like not right now, will get glued in like so. I'm just going to put these over top of each other. So I'm just going to like dry fit this, or try to anyway. This part of the tube seems a little bit deformed. Maybe try the other end. Go a little bit easier. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just going to put them together. They are clearly not attached, and I want to keep it that way because I'm going to prime this whole thing white, and then once I'm done priming it, I'm going to take the two parts apart, and then I'm going to paint it the blue and the final white color. So we will, at the very end, when I do like the decal work and attach the parachute and stuff, then we will finally attach this. The reason that we can do this without worrying about like wrecking the finish is because the way you attach this, the glue is all internal, and there's like, unless you completely screw up here, you're not going to get any glue on the outside. So it should be perfectly fine to attach the two pieces finally after finishing is done. So that pretty much takes care of construction. In the near future, I will do a little bit of preparation work on the fins, and then it'll be painting time. So I'm gonna, this won't stand up anymore. I guess we'll just leave it flat. It's fine. It's not hurting anything. So let the glue dry on the launch lugs and motor mount, and that's it. So next video will be finishing then, and I will see you then.